Hello and happy Constitution Week. My name is Gina Roberts and I'm the Voter Education Director for the Arizona Citizens Clean Elections Commission. And we're here today along with my colleague Avery Xola to talk to you about Constitution Week and how you can become civically engaged. Avery, would you like to tell the audience a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Gina. My name is Avery Xola, and I'm the Voter Education Specialist at Clean Elections.
And so Clean Elections, we are a state government agency, and we were created by the voters to provide our voters across the state with information on elections so that they can participate in the political process. So the reason why we're here to talk to you all today is to give you some information about how your government works and why it's important to vote. Now, let's jump back a little bit to what Constitution Week is. About 65 years ago, President Eisenhower, he officially enacted Constitution Week, and it was meant for a means to encourage the study and education of our United States Constitution. And so today, to help you celebrate, I'm going to ask Avery to go over the different levels of government that make up our country and our state. Avery, would you like to talk about those different levels of government?
Absolutely, Gina. So let's talk about how our government works. In the United States, our national and state governments share the power. This arrangement is called a federalist government, and it allows for two levels of government to serve the people. Federally, the federal government is solely responsible for international issues and our national defense to protect our country. State government shares the authority with the federal government on issues of education, controlling crime, housing, and taxes. The local government, you have the county, which acts as a link between the state and city and town governments. Then you have city, village, and town governments, which take responsibility for parks, recreation services, police and fire departments, housing services, emergency medical services, municipal courts, public transportation, and public works.
So why is it important to understand these different levels of government? And so the reason why it's important for you as a voter to know that and as a future voter is when you're going about your daily life and you have an issue that is important to you, you need to know which level of government is responsible for it. So for example, if you care about your local park, then you would want to talk about your issues with that park. Maybe it's the hours or building a new park or closing the park down. That would fall under your local government with your city or town council, as they would oversee that particular park in this instance. Or if you have an issue more with, let's talk about federal taxes, right? With the taxes that are coming out of your parents' paycheck, then that's a conversation that you would have with your federal representative. So your United States Senator, your United States Representative. And so understanding the different levels of government and what they're responsible for helps you as a voter understand who and what you're voting for on your ballot, but also how to engage with the government that is meant to work for you, the citizen of the United States of America. So next, let's talk about what kind of checks and balances are in place to keep each of those different levels of government operating. Avery, can you explain that to us?
Of course, Gina. So yes, in the United States, we have checks and balances in our government. And how that works is that we have three branches of government in our federal and state governments. So there's the legislative, judicial, and executive, and they check and balance each other's power. Each branch has its own function, and it is replicated at the state level. So you have the legislative branch, and this includes the House of Representatives and the Senate, and it's commonly referred to as the Congress. These legislators create laws, they manage the budget, and they're also elected into the office by us, the people. The executive branch consists of the president, vice president, 15 national departments, and several agencies. At the state level, the executive branch is going to include our governor, state departments, and also more agencies. The judicial branch is going to include the U.S. Supreme Court and lower federal courts. The judicial branch is responsible for interpreting our laws and making legal decisions based on our Constitution. Again, this is similar at the state level.
And so all of these different branches of government, they work together to create your government and to provide you those services. So it's important that one branch of government does not have more power than the other, right? We want our power equally distributed. And so these different branches serve to balance one another out. And so, for example, our legislature, in Arizona, there are 90 members of the Arizona State Legislature. And so each of those members, they create the laws for the state of Arizona. So for example, if there's a law about not talking or using your cell phone while you're driving, right? That was created by the state legislature. Now we have our Arizona State Supreme Court, which interprets those laws and makes sure that they're not in violation of our constitutional rights. And then we have our governor, who oversees all of the different state agencies, such as the Department of Revenue or the Department of Parks and Recreation. So all of these different branches and levels of government work together to bring you, the citizen, your government who provides services to you. So we've talked about how our government is structured. Now let's talk a little bit about how our elections work. Avery, can you go over how elections in Arizona work?
Absolutely. So elections in Arizona, or just nationally, but we have a republic form of government, which means that our country is ruled by us, the people, by electing leaders that represent us. So in Arizona, we have statewide and legislative elections every 2 years in the even numbered. All statewide offices have 4 term-year limits and legislative offices have 2 term-year limits. Elections happen in Arizona in March, May, August, and November. There are different types of elections in Arizona. We have a primary election, general elections, the presidential preference election, also known as the PPE, and special elections. So a primary election is where a voter doesn't have to belong to a specific party to cast a ballot. In Arizona, we have an open primary, and this means the independent voters can also participate. Then there's a general election. This happens every 2 years, always in an even year. These elections may include U.S. federal offices, Arizona legislative, county, and local offices that are going to be on the ballot. Then we have the presidential preference election. The presidential preference election is an election where voters can choose who they would like their presidential candidate in the upcoming general election to be, and party winners of the Arizona PPE are officially determined at the party's national convention. And then we have special elections. So a special election is used generally to fill vacancies when an elected official, God forbid, passes, resigns, or is expelled.
You can see there's a lot there, right? We have a lot of elections that are occurring all the time. So we know everybody likes to pay attention to and always hears about the presidential election, right? That's the Super Bowl of elections, if you will. But it's just as important to vote in all of these local elections as well, because as we just learned about the different levels of government and the different branches, it's so important to cast your vote so you can have a say in all of those different elected members of those positions. That way we can ensure that we have those checks and balances and that we have those different levels of government that are providing services for us, the voter. So I think it's important too to also talk about who actually runs elections. So in Arizona, we have 15 counties, and at the county level, we have a county recorder who's an elected position, and they oversee voter registration and early voting services. And then we have our election director, and the election director oversees election day activities such as polling places and tabulating the votes. And so it's important to understand that the people who are running our elections in Arizona, they are public servants who have been doing this job for quite a while now, and they have a lot of rules and procedures and laws that they have to follow to ensure that your vote is counted accurately and it's kept safe and secure. So this talks a little bit about how elections are brought to you, the voter. Now let's talk about how you, the voter, can participate in those elections. Avery, can you walk us through that?
Yeah, Gina, let's go over some voting 101 tips. So first, I would say to register to vote or check your registration. That's going to be the most important. This is the first step in activating your political power. If you're already registered, it can't hurt to double check your voter registration. You can check your voter registration as many times as you like. A valid ID is required in Arizona to vote. If you want to find out if you have the correct ID, you can go to our website, azcleanelections.gov. And so how do you get your ballot? Well, in Arizona, you have some options on how you can cast your ballot. You can vote early in person, you can vote on election day, and contact your county recorder or elections department for more information. You have a choice of early voting by mail. You can vote before election day. Voters can get and cast their ballot starting 27 days before every election. That gives you 27 days to research the issues and study the candidate. Contact your county recorder or elections department for more information on getting your early ballot. Early voting in person. In person, early voting is available beginning 27 days before every election as well. And then there's voting on election day. Election day is always held on a Tuesday, and voting locations are open from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. They're going to be different voting locations depending on your county, and do not forget to bring your ID. There's more voting resources on azcleanelections.gov for military voters, for voters with a disability, and voters without an address.
Thank you, Avery. That website is really important, azcleanelections.gov. And it's important for you as a future voter, and then also for your family now too, who may be participating in elections. And the reason why is because we just talked a lot, right? A lot about the information you need to know to vote. And it takes time to be an informed voter. And so, of course, we don't expect you to remember all of that, which is why we provide you, the voter, with this resource, azcleanelections.gov, so you can get all of your voting information and all of your voting needs in one spot. And so that's one place where you can go to get all of the official election information that you need when you get old enough to vote. So now let's talk a little bit more about how you can continue to be civically engaged, and that's by running for office. So we may have some future candidates in the audience here. Avery, do you want to talk to those future candidates and let them know some tips that they may be interested in?
Okay. Absolutely. So there's several ways that you can get involved with your community, and one of those ways is running for public office. So you don't have to be rich, you don't have to know everything. What's important is you care enough about your community to run for office. So there's running traditionally, and then there's public financing. Traditional candidates may receive funding from companies, organizations, and individuals, whereas public financing makes it possible to run for public office simply by gathering $5 contributions from your community. So be a part of the solution and serve your community.
So I think the point there that Avery's trying to make is that, if you want to be of service, if you want to serve your community, there's a pathway for you to run to get your name on the ballot and to run for office. And it really just comes down to, if you care about making a difference and you feel that you can step up and serve as an elected official, then there's different ways to help you through that process. So what we want to leave you all with, and again, we're so grateful to be here with you to celebrate Constitution Week, is we want to encourage everybody to activate your political power now. So whether or not you're old enough to register to vote, and by the way, speaking to all of our 16-year-olds and older out there, if you're watching this video, you can pre-register to vote. So as long as you're going to turn 18 on or before the next general election, you can get your voter registration form in early. But again, we hope all grade levels are tuning into this video. And so even if you're not old enough to register to vote yet, you can still engage in the process with your parents or your guardians. You can go with them into the polling place. You can sit with them if they're voting the early ballot. You can take a look at all that campaign mailers and literature that's being sent to your office, and you can learn more about how this process works by checking out our website at azcleanelections.gov or following us on social media. And so I want to thank Avery for giving us those great tips and high-level overview of how government works. And with that, we wish you a happy Constitution Week. Thank you.